When I was younger, my mom would ask the doctor to take my blood at every single checkup, even when I wasn't sick. That same awful feeling of the needle entering my arm and blood leaving it. I hated it. I mean, what kid wouldn't? No one likes getting their blood taken. It hurts, it makes you feel queasy, and your arm is sore for the rest of the day. At some point, I got sick and tired of it, so I asked my mom why I had to do it all the time. That's when I learned about my uncle. She told me that she had a brother named Nick. From the description she gave me, he sounded awesome. He loved to fish, hunt, play video games, and he loved to play football. She even told me he and his friends had been following a Navy SEAL training program so that they could stay in shape. I was so excited to meet him, but I couldn't. Nick Pierce died from mononucleosis when he was 19 years old. Mononucleosis. Doesn't sound familiar? That's because it's more commonly known as mono, or the kissing disease. Mono is a highly contagious disease that 90% of Americans contract before they are 30. Despite being so common, mono gets misdiagnosed all of the time. Almost all of its symptoms mimic other viruses, so patients get prescribed the wrong medicine and then they don't get better. This is what happened to my Uncle Nick. Prior to his death, he had visited 4 different doctor's offices over the course of 10 weeks, and they all diagnosed the wrong sickness. On the bright side, mono can be accurately diagnosed through 2 tests, a blood test and a spleen test. A spleen test is where a doctor will prod a patient's stomach to determine if their spleen is enlarged, which is the only symptom of mono that distinguishes it from other viruses. A blood test is most commonly conducted after a spleen test, which explains the blood draws every time I went to the doctor's office to some degree. As I've gotten older and learned more about mono, one thing I figured out is that a lot of people just aren't aware of how dangerous mono can be. And this is especially true of teens. Earlier this year in my biology class, we were studying viruses. My teacher used mono as an example as a type of virus. One of the guys in my class mentioned he had mono when he was younger. After he said this, the other guys in the class joked about how he was running around kissing people and how lucky he was to skip school. While they all laughed, I couldn't help but wonder, was he ever aware his life was at risk? Probably not. Because mono is not considered a threat, it's not taken seriously by most people. But it should be. It has far too many side effects if left untreated. It can evolve into a more serious illness such as hepatitis, jaundice, anemia, and meningitis. I think we can begin implementing simple but effective measures to prevent what happened to my Uncle Nick from happening to anyone else. First, I think all doctors should be required to conduct a spleen test at every visit, regardless of if the patient is sick or well. This mandatory test should help prevent overlooking mono in the diagnosis stage. Second, and this is true of much more than mono, I think we should consider broadening what is taught in health class to teenagers. And third, I think schools should provide parents sufficient information about illnesses that their children can catch while in school, especially ones that are hard to identify, often overlooked, or misdiagnosed commonly, like mono. Thank you.